Starting over at a brand new church can be exciting with the possibilities of new opportunities, but it can also be daunting with getting things set up and working with brand new team members and just getting acclimated to a new church culture. This is actually something that I'm doing right now, and so I'm documenting my journey in hopes that my experiences might actually help you when it's your turn to start over in worship ministry. Hi, I'm Dave Dolphin at practicalworshipblog.com, sharing ideas, tips, and practical advice for the everyday worship leader. And on this channel, we have weekly videos that help you lead a worship band and be a leader of people. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next video. So I've talked about this on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram, and I've mentioned this a few times on my podcast, but this is the first time that I'm directly addressing this here on the YouTube channel. This summer has been a crazy one, to say the least. And in some ways, it has been hard and difficult. In other ways, it has been inspiring and exciting. But it has led me to this place, which is God calling me to a brand new church. For the last 6 weeks, I've been on staff at Cherokee Hills Baptist Church in the Oklahoma City area. And looking back from this moment, I can completely see God's hand on everything. I'm where I'm supposed to be. But as I look forward, I see a lot of work ahead of me, because essentially I'm starting over in worship ministry, because prior to Cherokee Hills, I had been on staff at my previous church for 5.5 years. So I wanted to take a moment and share with you how I'm approaching this fresh start, because I'm right in the thick of it. I'm about a month in, so we'll call this episode 1, and then in 30 days, we'll do another episode, and then 3 months in, we'll do the same thing. I think this will be a fun way to document the journey as I start here at a brand new church. And for a lot of us, this is a thing that we will go through at some point in our ministry where we have to start over at a brand new church. So maybe there's some things that you can learn from my experiences, or at the very least, just be encouraged as you're going through that transition. The first thing I did is that I became a student of the culture here at Cherokee Hills. I wanted to learn about the DNA of this church. I didn't want to just copy and paste what I had done at my previous church and expect that to work, because the culture here is different. The people have different backstories. The history is different. For example, here at Cherokee Hills, the transition to a more modern worship style is a relatively new one, and it was a little bumpy at first. Compare that to my previous church, where they had made a change to a more modern worship style back in the early 90s. It's just one of the things that you have to consider when you're making decisions and you're planning. So it was important for me to figure out the culture. I needed to know where people are, where they had come from, before I felt prepared to lead them into the future. And the destination wasn't necessarily the same as it was at my previous church. Now, no matter where I am, I'm always going to be me, and I'm always going to bring my experiences and my personality to whatever it is that I'm doing. But as much as I could, I wanted to come alongside the church and meet people where they were. So for example, this affected song selection. Even before I came on staff and I was just having conversations with the search committee, I was starting to take notice of their song lists. I wanted to know what songs this church was familiar with. What was their anthems? What was the vibe of their worship sets? Were they big and celebratory, or were they more intimate and introspective? So now that I'm here, I'm leaning heavily on that song library, and I'm trying to be selective with the new songs that I'm introducing. And by new song, I mean anything that this church is not familiar with singing within these walls. So even a song like Cornerstone that's like 6 years old and would be considered an anthem at the church that I came from, I'm considering new here. And then there's songs like Sovereign Over Us and Jesus Is Better. For here at Cherokee Hills, these are the kinds of songs where they don't need the words on the screen. They just close their eyes and just sing loudly from their gut. These are two examples of anthems here at Cherokee Hills, but over the last couple of weeks, these are songs that I've had to learn. They're new to me, but that doesn't matter. What matters is meeting people where they are, providing that familiarity, and then leading from there. I'm trying to make myself fit them instead of the other way around. The second thing I did is that I started scheduling meetups with all the members of the current worship team, all the singers, all the musicians, and I did this for a couple of reasons. One is I just wanted to get to know people. In these meetups, I'd ask questions like, how did you become a Christian? And how did your family arrive drive here at Cherokee Hills? And what kind of music do you like to listen to in your car? And is there any hidden talents or creative potential that hasn't been tapped into yet? I'm leading a congregation, so that's certainly on my radar, but I am the leader of the worship ministry, and I am leading and pastoring and shepherding the people that serve on the worship ministry. So I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to know who they were. I wanted to know where they came from. What are their hopes and dreams? Stuff like that. Two is I wanted to assess the abilities and the skill level of the people on the team. Now, I intentionally did not call these meetups an audition. Some of the people that serve on the worship team have been doing so for 30 years, and I didn't want to just come in here and say, let's see if you make the cut of my team. But I did want to know what they were capable of. I wanted to know what their range was. I wanted to know what the timbre of their voice sounded like. Do you sound like Sarah McLachlan, or do you sound like Adele? Because I'm going to use you differently depending on that. How comfortable are you at leading a song? How comfortable are you with harmony? These are the kinds of questions that I was trying to get answers to. For the guitar players, do you play like Eric Clapton, or do you play like you're in the band The Killers? Because again, I'm going to use you differently depending on that. For the drummers, how comfortable are you playing with a click, since we play with tracks? These meetups were my chance to understand who these people were, how God had created them to be creative. It's like dumping out a box of crayons on the floor and then figuring out what can you color with these. And during all this, and this is my third point, I forgot how much I relied on what I had built over the last 5 years at my previous church. There was systems I had put in place and people that I had poured into and a leadership team and trust I had earned with the congregation, and now I'm essentially starting over. The first couple of weeks that I was here at Cherokee Hills, I literally spent the entire time in my office just trying to get 4 songs on a stage. I couldn't rely on my natural instincts because everything was different. It's a different church, it's a different library of songs, a different group of musicians. I couldn't rely on my systems because there wasn't systems built yet. In many cases, I was creating tracks for brand new songs, or maybe creating tracks for songs I'd done before but in brand new keys. I'm getting Planning Center set up with lyrics and charts and MP3s. What seemed like a very simple task at the beginning took me all week. So I mention this just to encourage you, because I know that at the beginning I was really frustrated with myself that it was taking so long to do something that I thought shouldn't take this long. But when you are starting over, you have to learn how to crawl before you can walk, and you have to learn how to walk before you can run. I am 6 weeks in now, and I feel like just this week I'm starting to feel the momentum of what we are building. For more videos like this one, consider subscribing to the channel, and for more advice from me personally, there's a small little ebook called 20 Things I Wish I Knew 20 Years Ago. It's the advice that I've learned over the last 20 years of doing music ministry, and you can download it right now for free at practicalworshipblog.com.